Um, Thank you here for the opportunity, and let's first start by introducing the panelists here. Why don't you start?
Hi, I'm Praveen. I'm one of the co-founders of Woopler. It's a women's fashion discovery platform, and I head marketing and growth.
Hi people, very good afternoon to everyone. My name is Anu. I work for a company called Accugen Technologies. We are a multi-screen performance marketing company with a focus on internet advertising.
I'm Sandeep. I handle all the marketing at Vonik. Vonik is a fashion e-commerce marketplace, one of the leading ones in India. Yeah, that's about it.
Lead the App Annie business for India. App Annie is global leading data analytics and market company.
We head a company called Presto. We are a platform player which provides the e-commerce and the m-commerce support for businesses, small enterprises, and startups. So I'll be the host for the next 20-25 minutes, and at the end we'll have an audience question before we start with the panelists now. Just to set the stage, right? Let's start with the offline-online connect that we see being used as a term. How the commerce is moving, what's the relationship between the offline world and the online world? And in your opinion, how does it look like from the desktop versus mobile and the connection between the two?
So internally at Woopler, we have, rather than, just to paraphrase your question, I make sure I got it right. You're asking about the offline-online bridge.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right. So one would be, we have a user-first approach, right? So the way forward essentially is you want to build a touch point wherever, in every single avenue where the user is going to be present, right? And from that perspective, rather than just having a user-first, mobile-first approach where you have only one screen, whether it's a desktop, whether the person's going to an offline store, you still want to have a solution there, a touch point, and hence bridge the gap.
So talking about the mobile versus desktop part of it, right?
Yep.
So see, for us at Vonik, it is mostly data-driven. You know, if you talk about, say, focus, allocation of resources and monies. Am I audible? No? Better? Right? So talking about, say, the allocation of resources and monies, right, between mobile and desktop. It is all data-driven for us. And we clearly see that the app outperforms the desktop in terms of the conversions. Possible reasons for those are those is that Vonik appeals better than some of the similar players do, the tier two markets. And in the tier 2 markets, people have easier access to mobiles than to desktops.
To Sandeep's point, I will go back to 2009, where we were just starting with one of the e-commerce players for the marketing spends. And they came to us and they said that, let's do a CPA activity. That time, doing a CPA on desktop was like next to impossible. But client, and that time the client was Myntra. So they were even, happily ready to spend like $1,000 against each transaction. And if I recall the cart value or the kind of items people were buying that time, these were like socks and pens, But they were happily ready to spend $1,000 or $2,000 for each transaction because that's how the e-commerce was at that time. And now we are in the phase where the mobile spends on e-commerce is like, good 80-90% of the overall marketing spends of the e-commerce player. So that's the shift that we are seeing today.
Split right now between what we call as the desktop traffic and the mobile traffic. Looking at data and looking at the trend, we see an increasing number of app downloads happening in Indian ecosystem today. When we see of increasing number, I mean, if I'm looking at comparing numbers of, let's say, Q1 2014 to Q1 2016, there has been a like 2x number of increase which is happening. Fueled, maybe, my personal opinion, cheaper smartphones, below $100 smartphones. And when I'm talking to a lot of app players today, they are looking at mobile first because of this last mile connectivity, which is maybe not being provided by a desktop.
The rise of beacon technology increasingly being adopted at offline stores, and that will be a key to the connect between the retail industry and the online industry, right? See, for example, right now, 75% of all smartphones have their locations turned on. So in case you're walking past a particular retail store, let's say there's a Nike store out there and you coveted this particular sneakers and it's already added to your cart or on your wish list or you bookmarked it, it's possible that you get a push notification on your phone which says, hey, this particular product that you liked, there's a store which is just 20 meters away from you, right? And that increasingly, that beacon technology is going to become increasingly adopted. And once you walk into the retail store as well, let's say it's an apparel store, then you're going to have innovative technologies like your shop sense and so on, which allows you to try on a new clothing without having to try it on. You don't have to go to the changing room to actually see how the particular fit happens. So you're going to see very innovative technologies bridging that online-offline gap.
So what and ease of downloading apps, location getting enabled, beacons kicking in. Now that we've established that mobile is the way, that you can't ignore, it is inevitable and all of that stuff. So what are some of the things, or what are some of the strategies that you reckon will be used? Is it app versus M-site because of the penetration, directing traffic and all of that? Or is there something else that's going to appear, push notifications and stuff like that? So you can better put the technology to use on the mobile phone for capturing the audience and engaging with them. Anu, you want to take it first?
When we talk about from the marketing perspective, right, one has to evolve and one has to adapt to the new trends which are coming in. I will just consider 2-3 points here. If you look at the data, the maximum smartphone users are the ones who are having the Android smartphone with them. Like 80% of the people in India are Android users, and out of those also the device they use are like 8,000 or a 10,000 bucks handset, right? Those handsets allow maximum app consumption, say to 20 to 30 apps at a time. So and then then one has to keep all the utility apps like Facebook, Google Maps, etc., etc. So are we just struggling for that space for 10 to 12 apps right now, or there's much more scope of exploring the space for on mobile smartphone handsets? So M-side is something which is very much ignored, but the recent move of Myntra proves that M-side is really, really important. And of course, video is again, not much talked about in India. Video is something which is again catching lots of eyeballs. People have wide screens, good 3G connectivity, so they can actually, we can look at video also as one of the place to market and promote. Second thing is but the marketer has to be vernacular. We just can't. We have to customize, as per the user behavior. If you look at the data, people who are adapting the smartphones, the maximum people are from tier 2 cities or tier 3 cities, right? And these are the people who are the one who are only using mobile phones, not much of the desktops. So for them, the content has to be customized based on their main source of communication.
One very interesting part is now apps versus MWeb, right? So where I see this going is a lot of these light websites coming in, right? So that app uninstall rates are really extremely high. Even if your app is good, like Anu mentioned, there's limited space on the user's phone, right? So I mean, we've noticed increasingly with customers, right, that they like Voonik, they like the app, they've ordered something, they got what they wanted, but now they've uninstalled it because they know in the next 7-8 days they're not going to buy anything again, right? So now there's a user who's liked it and is still uninstalling it. So this is where these light websites are going to come in, right? So because using technology, the experience here is better, the responses are faster, and Flipkart Lite has proved it. Everybody knows that, right? So I think the light websites on mobile should take over apps soon, someday.
What you say is that driving traffic and the mobile first thing, it is going to be mobile first. So just to put a few things in perspective, some data we culled and we saw people spending 11x more times in 2016 than they are doing it in 2014 in apps. What is driving that? Is it being driven by increasing engagement or increasing needs? That is a query I think app publishers, app owners, and all others need to answer, because end of the day, it's the same user may be going to a different app. What keeps you loyal to that app? What keeps you loyal to that engagement of that similar app is something we need to. And the better the UX is, the technology is, there may be varied number of factors for engagement. That is what I think in the future, which is going to drive traffic to that app.
There are multiple ways in which you can build stickiness to the app. Discounting is probably the least desirable option, but probably the most practical one that's being used. In your opinion, we'll start with you, Pradeep. And when you look at the gamification of apps, when you look at some of the other stuff that can be done in the mobile applications when it comes to commerce to make sure that the user retains the engagement with the merchant. I'm not talking about installs or uninstalls. What are the other ways you would, from a practical, anecdotal example, point out that, these are some of the non-intuitive, highly creative ways merchants across the world have used that could lead to that engagement, could lead to much more stickiness on the application?
It's not a question of one particular strategy.
Correct.
There are multiple avenues, multiple channels which are available to you. So the idea is all your competitors also have the same channels, right? So how do you actually take advantage of it? Your aim is to just be better than the bloke down the road. So you understand what the channel is for, and you innovate over there. Having said that, one particular strategy that we did, and if you're looking for something which is not mainstream or away from digital, I think I would have to say it was, so the great thing about Woopler is its community, right? That's basically our USP. That's our IP, essentially. So having said that, we actually launched this massive college community program. So we had a campus ambassador across, we have it in about 300 colleges now, 2 campus ambassadors each, and they are each responsible for getting on board some 20, 25 fashionistas, right, all women. So that is one way for us to actually increase the content on the app, because we are essentially content-driven. Essentially what Woopler is an Instagram for fashion. And once we knew where our TG was, the best way to go about it at a very, very low cost per acquisition was to go to these colleges and do something very, very innovative there, right? So we recruited every single possible avenue there, and we came up with a interesting, some sort of a incentivized mechanism. I may not necessarily call it gamification, because it's part of the app itself, because we have a virtual currency called Style Miles that we dole out to users who do certain actions anyway. So we made use of that, just twisted that a little bit and made sure that so we have around 10,000 people from all these colleges on board. And it's a massive WhatsApp group. Every single class, every single batch, we manage it. There are people who manage each and every one of these groups. And in our office, there are just 2 people who call the shots, right? 2 people essentially managing 10,000 students across India and across cities. So
I'm going to lead user creative. So Amazon Prime, you've heard, right? They give you these buttons which you can put at home, which have Huggies or groceries or whatever button you press, and then your immediate demand goes to the center, and then it comes back. It kind of connects with the merchant, not always through the mobile, but they have these add-ons which they have produced. What I was looking for was that, have you seen those practical examples as well coming through the e-commerce paradigm here in India, where something very, very uniquely has been used?
End of the day, that's an Amazon Dash button. I mean, you have a utility for it.
Correct.
As in, you're going to keep ordering your detergents or so you have a Tide Dash button and you have a Ariel Dash button. But then in our case, we are essentially an aggregator. So we don't come up with solutions like that, except for like feature-wise implementations or feature-wise improvements or innovations. So we are limited to that in our case. Probably the other folks can chip in.
What are those few unique things that we've done to crack engagement,
Correct.
right? So in Voonix's case, it is, at the core of the company, at the core of the app, we have personalization, right? If a woman uses the app, she's after a point, after she's fed some data to the system, she's going to see apparel that suits her skin, her skin tone and her body type, right? And also our notifications are soon going to be segmented based on their activity. So it is it pretty much ends up being a different store for you, a different store for everybody. And that definitely leads to great engagement, and our numbers show that.
So extending this one, he said that they have personalized the platform so that each person sees his own store. In your opinion, how does the analytics, what more does it add? Since you are primarily driving a lot of app analytics, what do you observe? What do you recommend? How does it work out?
Okay, so if you look at some data again, I'm speaking of our analytics data, we see there has been a doubling of time of user engagement. Again, I'm speaking of a 2-year time frame to 2014 to 2016. What is driving this user engagement? Well, of course, there has been downloads, and our fellow panelists have been speaking of incentivized advertising and personalization of apps, but there must be more factors to that. While we see a lot of things being driven by downloads or incent ads and all those things, I personally feel the sub $100 thing, personalization, and NLP, which is like the natural language processing, your native language, my personal opinion, may be driving a higher amount of engagement among users. So if you see some of these apps, many of them are moving from tier 1 to tier 2 to tier 3 to get more and more users. But they also are trying to capture and retain the old loyal users they have. So data says session times is being increased twice. There is a lot of new logins which is happening. Why and how? It will be the publishers who would be the best possible place to speak about that. But yes, there has been a huge amount of increase. If you look at especially the retail apps, they are actually rolling the roost out now, along with maybe video streaming and ride-sharing apps.
You want to add something? For the analytics part? For the in-app analytics, do you want to add something? Anybody else?
Anything more specific than?
So, like he said, these are the data points that you capture to make the experience personalized. How do you look at the app analytics and then try to either personalize the responses, the queries, bring in other concepts?
Well, I mean, so the whole idea of social commerce is to make sure you're able to show the right product to the right user at the right time, right? So it's always contextual. So the point is you have a lot of various inputs, right? And there are so many different parameters and variables from where you need to get your signals from. And how well you do it depends upon how complex and on what tech stacks you're going to be using. So that would be a different, a topic in itself. So I don't know how I can compress that into a minute where I can give it in terms of bits and pieces of information.
Okay, fair enough. From your perspective, when you have tried to, optimize the usage of the mobile for your businesses, and as you have seen across other businesses, what do you reckon are the 2 or 3 key challenges that you see in terms of either adoption or in terms of monetization or in terms of engagement that, whether it is diverting the traffic or otherwise, on the mobile bit that you see as you kind of explore those opportunities, whether it is within your business or across a spectrum?
So I would like to, add to it. So from the marketing perspective, right, we work with lots of e-commerce players, mobile wallet advertisers. So one of the key problems which I see is everyone is following the same industry standards or KPIs to judge their app performance or their marketing spends performance. They talk the same language of ROI. So that's a assumption that if you spend on mobile, the LTV for a marketer will be much higher than you spend on the desktop. But that might not be true for all the marketers, right? For example, for a travel category or for a BFSI category, right? The LTV is much higher on the desktop because the user behavior is such that they do lots of research and go into comparison mode and then decide on a product if they want to, go for it. So the marketer or the advertiser should at least, go back and do their homework and check that, if the KPIs which they are putting for a marketing spend are making sense for that activity or not. Second challenge I feel is expecting too much, right? From day one, the advertiser wants, that the conversion rate should be like, 3%, 4%. The uninstall rate on any marketing activity should be should not be more than 30%, and so on. So for any marketing activity, it takes time to optimize and to reach a level where one can actually commit to the objective or the KPI of the advertiser. So maybe Sandeep can add to it from his.
Yeah, so as in the question or the query was in terms of
You'll need
right.
to speed up because I think I heard
Definitely,
it
yes,
down.
exactly,
there.
right. So what makes converting a user to a customer challenging, or what drives engagement away? I mean, it brings me back to personalization. If I get the personalization wrong, I will definitely see lesser engagement. And external factors, for something like fashion e-commerce, are factors like sale. If you have a player doing sale, then you will definitely see some drops in conversion. Going to what Anu mentioned, I'll take a minute more probably. Because the advertiser is spending money, even in the trial period, right? He will expect returns at least by day 7. If you put yourself in the advertiser's shoes, right? You just cannot help but go with that sentiment, right? That if I've given a source 7 days and on the 7th day also it's not driving my KPI, then I will have to be impatient. I'll have to ask the source to pause the campaign.
Sure. The advertiser is always right. I believe in that.
Okay. Do we have the time to open for the audience? Yep.
Hey, I'm Karthik. So I have 2 questions. Maybe every one of you can answer from your perspective. So first question is, what's your average user acquisition cost? And the second one is, which is the best medium that worked for you in terms of acquiring your users, whether it's email marketing or banners on roads or it's through radio. So which is the best one from your experience?
I'm unable
Numbers
to
to
get
the
the
cents,
question.
please.
I'm unable to get the question.
So the question is, what's your average cost of acquiring a user? And what's your best medium to acquire those users? Is it email marketing or social media or newspaper flyers and stuff like that?
I can't give you my CPI or my acquisition costs, I'm sorry. I really doubt, especially since my competitor Vunik is also on the panel. I don't think I can do that. But I can, from the point of view of primarily BTL, well, it has its advantages. So the point is each and every channel has got its own pros and cons, right? So depending upon your objective, for example, if your objective is, let's say, brand awareness, and there's an event like GMA, say, that's happening, you should probably advertise on Ghana or Savin, right? It does make sense because you have a very limited period and you're trying to get across to a whole lot of people and based on certain interests, saying that, hey, there's an event like this happening, do a 5-day intensive campaign over there and everybody gets to know, right? Similarly, your BTL channels, right from your AdWords to your Facebook to your ad networks, they have their own advantages as well. And each of these 3 platforms, again, differ very much from each other, right? They have their own targeting capabilities and gender targeting capabilities, and the way in itself it works is very different. So you just have to study each platform, park some money, and see what works best for you. Because for every vertical, it changes, right? And it just comes down to how well you're able to execute not just your digital strategy, but it's always a mix of your creative teams and your copy team and your basically art and copy together with your digital that mixes up, right? So it's a lot of effort. And I can't give you a generic answer because every vertical, every company has got its own sweet spot, right? Certain channels work best for them and they know it best. So the only way you can do it is to park some money in every one of these channels and see which one gives you the best reward.
Right. I would like to add a little bit on the same lines. Like as Rajratna mentioned towards the end, right? What is the average CAC is a very generic question to have a specific answer. That's because your average CAC depends on the scale, that is on the number of customers you want in a given span of time, right? It also depends on the maturity of your base, right? When I acquired my first 10,000 customers, that was way cheaper than the last 10,000 customers, right? Then that was way cheaper than I acquired customers after acquiring 1 million customers, right? So, and for Woonik, I mean, to answer the second part of your question, what channel works best? So, I can talk only about our business. So, anything that allows, that gives you the capability to target a narrow segment and showcase your collection, right? That is good display and good targeting works well. So for me, it boils down to content and targeting, everything.
Yeah, I just want to add one point right now. I think I second what Anu was saying was the unrealistic expectation of having an immediate ROI kind of thing. We are speaking of cost per acquisition via various channels, that's good. End of the day, in a maturing market, I think this query, if you are around in 2 years' time, should be what is the cost of engagement and keeping the users loyal. That is where I think which will drive traffic and which will drive the increased, interaction between the e-commerce or whatever apps, because we are looking at, let's say, 20 billion downloads by 2020. So that's a huge market to cater to. Thank you.
Very quick.
So, for the price, I will tell you off stage for both of them. But yeah, coming back to the second question, Sandeep, both the guys rightly said that one has to be very, very clear about the objective, what one is driving for. But I can actually, we can segregate basis the categories. So for BFSI, Google doesn't perform. For BFSI, all banks like SBI, Standard Chartered, for them the maximum source of driving the audience is email marketing, right? I will give you a small data. Citibank in India, they acquire their credit card users from internet is like almost 65%, right? So the overall credit card users which the Citibank is acquiring, 65% of the user is through internet. So it depends at which category you are in. So for any e-commerce player, the mix makes more sense. So it should be a if they're present on Nextstop, of course, and of course mobile is something which is really, really important. If you look at the startups, 49% last year, 49% of the total funded money, to the startups was used only for the promotion, for the marketing activity. And even if you want to slice that marketing spends, almost like 60% was there for the only mobile, because maximum startups were app-only funded companies, right? So it totally depends upon your objective and the kind of ROI you want to drive out of it.
Thank you. I thank you, all of you, and thanks for the audience, as well as for that question, which had 2 answers, but pretty vague ones, but that's how it is. I think we're done.